So I am here in Odessa, and it's a beautiful city. It's one of my favorites in all of Ukraine. And I'll give you a little quick brief about what Odessa is. It was founded by Catherine the Great back in the 18th century as a city, but there's been a settlement in here for quite some time. It is a seaside town. The port is very important. There's a lot of seaside recreational stuff. It's a vacation spot. The language here is primarily Russian, and there are a lot of pro-Russian elements here, but that has all changed now in the time of war. And I just got into town a couple of days ago, and I've been walking around, and you know, the first things that I'm noticing are this town is really empty. Normally about 1 million people live here, but right now I would say a good chunk of that, maybe even as much as half, have left for safer pastures. So this is the view at sunset from my Airbnb balcony. And I did have to tell the owner of this property that I was, yes indeed, physically going to come here, because many people have been using Airbnb as a way to show support and provide funds, much needed funds, to Ukrainians during this period. But I had to say, no, I am really going to come to Odessa. And I've been coming to Odessa for many years. I love it, as I say. And fortunately, because I've been here so many times, I was able to pull up some old video that I'd shot here in some of my previous trips, and I will be dropping them in throughout this vlog, just to show the Odessa that was and the Odessa that is. So here's the other thing that I immediately noticed when I arrived here. That, behind me, is the Black Sea. And if this were any other year, there would be ships of all shapes and sizes out there. You know, you would just see them from here to the horizon, whether they were cruise ships or pleasure vessels, speedboats, sailboats, or indeed, of course, the massive tankers carrying containers around the world. Nothing's out there because of the blockade and the mining of these waters, and that is creepy. And the other thing I noticed, of course, was this. That is part of the port of Odessa, and it is completely at a standstill. This is about as close as I can get without getting special authorization. I was able to see it, overlook it from Taras Shevchenko Park yesterday, but I wasn't able to film, so you'll just have to take my word for it. Nothing's going on there. It's a ghost town. And that is bad news, because normally on average, the place does about 22 million tons of shipping a year. And that's just completely been lifted from global trade. That's bad news, not only for Odessa, not only for Ukraine, but of course, for the entire world. So normally, this beach would be filled with people, and there would be boats all throughout the Black Sea out there. But sadly, given the situation, the beach is blocked off, and swimmers are warned they may not go into the water for the risk of mines. Not exactly lacking in people. So this is another fixture in Odessa called the Odessa Passage, and it's beautiful architecturally. It's on the same street where the park that I was in when I started this vlog, and also the shopping and restaurant walking promenade is located. Normally, this time of year, this place would be absolutely packed. But as you can see, there's hardly anyone here, and it's just devoid of any commerce and devoid of any tourists, and so, you know, they are going to suffer financially. It's of course not nearly as bad as what is happening in the east of the country, where people are losing their lives, losing their homes, and being driven from everything that they've known in their life and losing everything. But financially, this is going to be devastating for Odessa, and it is very difficult to see. But also, this shows you the kind of place that Odessa is. Souvenirs and stuff. So once again, this conflict is just filled with contradictions. The boardwalk here is still relatively active, lots of sunbathers, but I do get the feeling that most of them are Odessans. Don't really get the feeling of a lot of internally displaced people like I saw out in Lviv, and certainly there aren't a lot of foreigners, as they normally would be in June. This is a very busy tourist spot, and normally populated by a lot of Germans. The Turks like coming here a lot, so this year, obviously that's been cut off. And like Lviv, you know, a lot of those tourist dollars are gone. Now I say this is a juxtaposition of a lot of odd things, and it's because of this. For me, the dolphinarium is still open, and I was sure it was gonna be closed. This is a major draw in Odessa, and when I was last here, roughly 4 or 5 years ago, I went on a swim with the dolphins. Sadly to say, on a side note, we are aware here in Odessa that many of the dolphins that live in the Black Sea are washing up on the shores of Odessa dead. And I have it on good authority from a naval intelligence officer. It's probably because the Russians are out there in submarines, which are safer than their surface fleet, and they're probably using heavy sonar, which screws with the dolphins' sense of the ocean, and so they aren't able to properly swim, and they drown, sadly. But again, very odd for me that the dolphinarium would still be open. So over lunch, I asked my waitress about this idea of putting garbage bags over the street signs. And I said, do you really think that's going to stop them? I mean, you know. And she said, well, you know, even if it slows them down for a second, it'll be a good thing. And then I said, well, you know, but ultimately they can just tear down the garbage bags that you guys are putting over your street signs. And she said, aha, yes, that may be true. But they're going to have to get out of their armored vehicles in order to do it. And that means they'll be vulnerable to snipers or grandmothers with Molotov cocktails. Which, you know, indicates to me how determined the people of Odessa are to inflict as much pain as possible on any Russians that would dare to come into this city. So there are lots of things about Odessa, but it being a seaside town, as aside from just being a port, it's also a great party town. Lots of nightclubs, lots of bars, lots of places to come and let your hair down. And it's modeled towards the youth. So in a lot of ways, it's kind of like an Ibiza or maybe a South Beach in Miami. And one part of town is here, Arcadi City. Arcadi is a place where they have just a number of restaurants and bars and places. And it is just normally just thumping. But of course, this year I've been told it's nowhere near normal as one could expect. So I thought I'd come here, take a look, and see what things are like this year. So as I say, normally Arcadi would just be thriving. This place would be jam-packed. And, you know, it would be vacationers, people coming to enjoy the water, but also in the evenings, this place would be filled with young people, just doing what young people do, you know, drinking excessively, chasing one another around. But this year, of course, it's not anywhere like that. You see all the restaurants are scarcely filled, and I'm betting most of them are filled or are occupied by only Odessans, not by tourists. Down here is the section where all the nightclubs are located because we're right on the water. And it runs down, there's about a half dozen of them. And they run right along the water, but none of them are more famous than this one, Ibiza. Named for obvious reasons, but I'm told it's just a pool at this point. That's pretty cool, man. So it's about in the mid-90s here, and people do want to go for a swim. You know, it's a seaside town, but they can't swim in the ocean because of the mines, as I think I've probably shown already. But you can bring your kids here. You can come here with a date, with your family, get some sun, get some color, and take a swim in the pools. It costs about $8 for the entire day, and it's I've been here before. It's really, this is not normal. Normally this place is filled with people. So another example of how the war is changing things normally. What you are looking at is the famous Odessa Opera House, and I'm not going to get too close to it because it is actually being used currently for air defense of the city, and you can probably see the sandbag fortifications there. I don't want to get too close because I don't even, you know, inadvertently want to give away any of those security measures. But I did want to film it because at the very beginning of the war, a military brass band came down here and they played a rendition of Bobby McFerrin's "Don't Worry, Be Happy." And it was one of the first things that indicated to me that the Ukrainians were going to be just fine, that their spirit could not be broken. And I would contend, even despite some setbacks and the tragedies that we've seen, some 100+ days into this war, that spirit is alive and well. Oh, and just one other quick thing, and I did see a young couple here taking photographs and the police didn't stop them, so I think I'm safe here. But it is important to note, the Opera House is open. There are concerts and operas being performed here, and I think that is amazing, that despite being surrounded by sandbags, there are still performances going on, and just another example of how this is an Odessa that cannot be broken.